Guests walk by in gowns and suits, whispering family embarrassment as if I can't hear. My name card is gone, shoved into the coat room with unpaid bills. Amanda stands at the doorway, smirking with pride. I glance at my watch and say firmly, not before 10. Discontent. Then the room falls quiet. My father-in-law steps forward, his eyes locking on me. He calls my name with respect, and suddenly every whisper stops. The organ pipes rattled the last note through St. Cecilia's, echoing like a brass hinge closing on a vault. Everyone rose in a shimmer of perfume, pearl, and polite applause. I tugged my tie a second time, then a third, palms damp, promising myself I'd keep quiet. The program crinkled in my jacket pocket. Processional, vows, recessional, reception. I had read it 3 times already, as if the printed order could protect me, like scaffolding on a fragile wall. We filed into the Harbor Club ballroom, chandeliers dripping gold light, floor polished so hard it looked like water. My table sat near an ice sculpture shaped like a sailboat. Too far from the dais, too close to the servers, the chair was sturdy but positioned with intent, present but invisible. I sat down, aware of the separation. Amanda's perfume hit before her voice. She leaned slightly as she passed, her smile too neat. "Smile wider, Richard, it's a wedding." I'm smiling enough, but my eyes stayed steady. Her glance skimmed me like a quality check. She moved on, hand grazing Ethan's shoulder, head tilted toward donors who leaned closer when she spoke. Irish friends waved warmly, unaware how far my table sat. A few servers gave me polite nods as they refilled glasses. Ethan toasted with Amanda, posture tall, tuxedo sharp. He didn't look over once. I tightened my grip on the table edge. All I wanted was a chair at my son's joy, nothing more. Amanda looked back one last time. The smile she sent wasn't kindness, it was a marker laid down, a warning disguised as courtesy. It lingered longer than the applause, promising something sharper than marble. The ballroom hummed with laughter and clinking glass. My chair wobbled whenever I shifted, one leg shorter than the rest. Each tilt was a reminder that the room didn't want me steady. Woo men in tuxedos whispered as I passed them en route to the buffet. "Budget tux," one said, not even trying to hide it. His companion chuckled, glancing toward my shoes. Amanda arrived, orbiting the room like a queen reviewing subjects. She paused beside me, perfume sharp, smile smooth. "Shoes squeak on marble, Richard." "They've carried me further than you know," I said. The line was dry, but my voice steady. She tilted her head, still smiling. "Try not to draw focus. It's Ethan's night." Then she floated away, her train cutting between tables like a drawn line. Around me, phones lifted. Guests pretended to film the decor, but I could see the angles. Catching the ice sculpture, catching the bride's family, catching me in the corner. Red lights blinked. I gripped my chair arms as if stillness might shrink me. The wobble betrayed me anyway, scraping softly on marble. The sound made 2 women glance over, one snickered behind her hand, hoping the moment would vanish. The MC straightened his stack of cards, his thumb tapping the next order. The card flashed under chandelier light, toasts, groom, bride, parents. My name was nowhere. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed, "our next speaker." The chandeliers dimmed to a warm hush. The MC leaned into the mic, handed it to Ethan, and stepped aside. Phones rose like a second ceiling, red lights blinking, glass, my chair wobbling again beneath me. Ethan wrapped an arm around Amanda. His smirk was aimed like a spotlight. "Everyone," he said, pausing just long enough to let the room lean in, "meet my dad, the family embarrassment." The words cracked across the marble. For a heartbeat, silence, then laughter erupted, sharp and rolling. It filled every crevice, bouncing off crystal and silver. Unpaid fucking champagne toppled, glass hitting stone, shattering into a bell so loud, it silenced me as well. I half rose, mouth opening. "Enough," I tried to say. But before the sound could reach air, the bandleader crashed his baton, horns exploding into signs sealed delivered. The crowd erupted into applause and dancing. My humiliation was swallowed whole by brass and rhythm. Amanda's eyes found mine across the room. Her smile was carved, precise. Ethan basked in the laughter, microphone still hot. "Lighten up, Dad," he called, voice riding the music. The crowd roared harder. I left the wobbling chair behind. Its scrape silenced as I stood. The red lights of phones followed me, catching only fragments. A stumble, a broken glass, a father out of step. A video already cut itself in real time, trimmed by noise and framing. I pressed my hand against the wall, grounding myself. Glass can break louder than a man's voice, but silence, I promised, can outlast music. Orchid was white, the kind florists charge double for. Amanda held it like a peace offering when I opened my door. "Richard," she said brightly, "family now." She didn't wait for an invitation. Her heels clicked across my linoleum, her eyes skimming the space as though it were a ledger. She set the orchid on my counter, then slid a folder onto the coffee table. Gold letters across the front read, "Family Care and Finance Plan." Reopened her skirt before sitting, not in a chair, but perched. My seat across from her stayed empty. "I wanted to make sure you're comfortable," she began, voice dipped in sugar. "These transitions can be stressful." I thumbed the folder but didn't open it. "Transitions?" "You're at the stage where falls happen," she said softly. "We've outlined how bills can route through our household. Ethan will be listed as decision maker purely in case of a medical event." I laughed once. "I'm healthy." "Of course." Her hand touched my sleeve, a gentle clamp. "But we want what's best." I slid the folder back. "I'll keep handling my business." Her smile tightened, pulling corners rather than cheeks. "Then let's at least agree you'll consult us before any public appearances. We can't have another scene like the wedding." The implication that I caused it hung between us. I leaned back, eyes on the orchid she'd left glowing in my kitchen. "I've managed my own life since the Ford administration." She tilted her head, maintaining the smile. "It's not control, Richard, it's care." "Then why does it feel like a leash?" Her eyes flickered, but her voice stayed soft. "Think it over. We'll see you at brunch, 11 sharp." She tapped a card onto the table, the time circled neatly. She stood, straightening her dress, and walked toward the door. A neighbor across the hall was fumbling for his keys as she left. He glanced at the orchid in my hand, then at Amanda's polished smile, before looking quickly away. I closed the door on the flower, the air still smelling faintly of her perfume. The bells of St. Cecilia's carried down Boylston Street, shaking pigeons from the gutters. I pushed open the vestibule door, hoping the sound of hymn practice would drown out the unease from Amanda's visit. 2 ushers stood near the holy water font, coats still on. Their voices lowered as I passed. "Bathroom's in Ethan's dad," one said. "Lost his savings?" "Nons," the other added, tone almost sympathetic. My seat in the pew had space on both sides. People leaned subtly away, leaving a buffer as if uncertainty were contagious. I bent for the bulletin. The board read, "Sunday Mass, 9 a.m., choir practice 8:30. The neat lettering might as well have said, "Judgment, 9 a.m. sharp." Muka Mrs. McKenna intercepted me, her alto voice warm. "Richard dear," she said, "don't worry. Amanda told us you sometimes forget things. She just wants what's best." I stiffened. "I remember plenty." "Nickam," she patted my arm. "Of course. But if you need oversight, family should help. We're all concerned." Pity in a hymn singer's voice. "Funny how I only forget what doesn't flatter her." Her brow furrowed, unsure if I was joking. A buzz ran through the pews. I glanced at a phone screen angled my way. A clip from the wedding. The cropped frame showed me clutching a chair, glass falling, then the cut, ending before I'd steadied myself. The caption, "When your budget shoes meet marble." Ouch. Laughter rippled across the app feed, dots of approval blooming under the video. Uzbek the phone back across the pew without a word. Tage, as the organ warmed up, Mrs. McKenna tried again. "She only means to protect you." I stood, hymn book in hand, and walked toward the choir loft instead of my usual pew. The empty space beside me felt larger than the church itself. The Harbor Club's brunch smelled of buttered rolls and sea air. Light poured through tall windows glinting off silver pitchers. My chair scraped as I pulled it closer to the table. It felt lower than the rest. An inch difference, but enough to tilt the whole room against me. I tried anyway. About Friday, Amanda's phone was already in her hand. She swiped once, then slid it across the linen. A photo filled the screen. Me outside a leasing office, manila folder tucked under my arm. The caption she'd typed, "Helping Dad secure housing. Proud of Ethan for stepping up." Gasps and sympathetic sighs rose around the table. Diane Langford made a soft, "Oh," as if I were already halfway to a nursing home. "That picture's not what it looks like," I said. Amanda's smile was painted on. "Of course not, but people worry. It's why we've taken on more responsibility." "I co-signed for a neighbor's furnace repair," I added, forcing my voice to stay even. "That's all." The judge leaned forward, brows raised. "Best to keep family matters private, Amanda placed her hand gently over Ethan's. "The club has policies about disputes at the table." Her tone was sweet, but the words clipped like scissors. My son kept his eyes on his water glass, jaw tight. He didn't speak. The program card sat on the table beside the pitcher. Closing remarks, 11:30 a.m., time marching toward a neat conclusion that excluded me. I pushed the phone back. My chair had never felt lower. The donors went on about tea times and galas, conversation flowing over me like I'd never spoken. The Langford's brownstone glowed like a stage set. Gas lamps outside caught the brass knocker, polished to a mirror. Inside, the parlor was alive with Amanda's friends, laughter bouncing against the crown molding. I paused in the doorway of the dining room, scanning for my card. Names glittered across crystal place settings, but mine wasn't there. "Richard," Amanda called sweetly. "You're just over here." He kitchen counter, beside a children's macaroni and glue centerpiece, sat my place card. A stool pulled up awkwardly high, napkin folded as an afterthought. Rosacea spilled through. Donors discussing golf handicaps. A neighbor's opera tickets. I felt every syllable, and none of them were mine. Amanda reappeared, folder in hand, thicker now, its corners straining. She set it down like a judge places evidence. "Just signatures," she said, almost breezy. "A family agreement, so we avoid confusion. You'll call before scheduling service appointments. No online posts without approval. And let's keep the wedding video buried." Windshield app the cover. The sound echoed in the tiled kitchen. "I've managed my own life longer than this marriage has existed." Her smile held steady. "This isn't about control, it's about protecting everyone's dignity." Ethan entered, sleeves rolled, hair mussed like he'd been dragged into the moment. His jaw was locked. "Easier this way, Dad," he muttered. "Easier for whom?" I asked, voice steady though my hands pressed the counter hard. Amanda slid the last page across. She uncapped a pen with a click that silenced even the parlor for a second. "Trust," she said brightly. "Trust is ink." The pen hovered and I said, eyes fixed on him, "Look at me." Will eyes again. The pen touched paper. The scratch of ink carried louder than forks in the dining room. Amanda's friends drifted near the doorway, pretending to admire the chandelier, but leaning toward the kitchen, catching every line. Diane Langford's voice chimed politely about dessert. Amanda closed the folder with a crisp snap. "Perfect. We'll present a unified family at the foundation dinner 2 weeks from tonight." Her eyes lingered on me, the words landing like a court order. A pen stroke can feel like a door lock. I remained on the counter stool, the macaroni centerpiece glowing under too bright light. My place had never felt smaller or more deliberate. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the old radiator. I switched on the desk lamp, its cone of yellow light cutting across a stack of folders. The chair beneath me didn't wobble like the Harbor Club seats or Amanda's counter stool. It was the chair I'd repaired myself years ago. Oak frame, solid bolts, cushion flattened but faithful. Sitting in it steadied me. The orchid Amanda left had wilted in the trash can, its petals shriveled to paper. Paper, at least, doesn't lie. Yuled opened the bottom drawer and slid out a file I hadn't touched in years. Inside, clipped in a blue folder, was a 2015 outage report from the city's emergency division. My name, signed at the bottom, confirmed the temporary transfer I'd rigged during the nor'easter. 8 years ago, soaked to the bone, headlamp cutting through rain, I'd kept a research lab alive when their backup failed. My finger over the date stamp. Paper doesn't laugh. It waits. The folder included an email chain. A thank you from Victor Langford's facilities manager, copied to his office. I'd filed it and forgotten, never needing thanks. Now it might be the one thing Amanda couldn't spin. Presumptions. Name flashed. For a moment, hope rose. But when I opened the thread, it wasn't him. It was Amanda, replying on his behalf. Undermined misinterpretations, Richard. Digging into old files won't help. Please don't embarrass Ethan further. I typed back, thumb heavy. Strange how the facts don't check with your story. The three dots blinked, then disappeared. No reply. I leaned back in the chair, the wood creaking. For the first time in weeks, I felt a trace of balance. On the desk sat my calendar, a printed relic I still preferred to apps. I flipped to the next week. Amanda had circled the date in red ink when she left the brunch card. Foundation Gala, 10 p.m. I copied it into my phone. The reminder flashed up. Gala, 10 p.m., 2 weeks and counting. To play to audiences, then I bring my own evidence to the stage. I opened another drawer, pulling out envelopes where I'd saved odds and ends, receipts for repairs, handwritten notes from parish families. Proof I wasn't senile, irresponsible, or unstable, just old enough to have paper trails. Radiator clanked and hissed, filling the silence. I imagined the Harbor Club crowd seeing the outage report projected on a wall, instead of the cropped video. I imagined Victor Langford's face, realizing the man he'd written off as embarrassment had once saved his company's work. My phone buzzed again, a new message. Not Amanda this time. An email from Nurse Bennett. Subject line, Storm night photos. She had found pictures from the hospital's generator feed, snapped during the outage. I exhaled, a sound closer to a laugh than anything I'd managed in weeks. Amanda could plant orchids, rumors, and signatures, but the paper in my hand was heavier than her smile. I stacked the report, the email, and Bennett's note. The pile was small, but it felt like a foundation. The calendar reminder glowed on my phone screen. Gala, 10 p.m. The countdown had begun. The desk lamp hummed faintly, a halo of yellow light pressing back the shadows in my apartment. I cleared the surface of clutter. No receipts, no spare tools, nothing that could confuse what I meant to capture. Only the outage report, the email chain from City Services, and Bennett's new message sat stacked in the middle, a paper island under the glow. Next to the stack, ordinary as anything, lay the white phone charger. Smooth edges, factory sticker still on the back. To Amanda, it would look like a thrift store accessory. To me, it was my witness. I turned it over in my hand. The hidden lens winked only once when I plugged it in. The laptop feed lit instantly. My desk, my chair, the pile of documents framed dead center. In the corner of the screen, a timestamp glowed steady, 8:45 p.m. Eased into the oak chair, shifting until the angle caught me square. This chair didn't wobble. I'd tightened its bolts myself years ago. Unlike the Harbor Club stool, unlike the macaroni counter perch, this seat held firm. The lens saw steadiness, not frailty. My phone buzzed. Amanda. Albuquerque, this has gone far enough. Digging through files, contacting people. If you persist, we'll intervene legally. Take, I muttered. Always threats dressed as etiquette. I typed, funny, law favors facts. 3 dots pulsed, then vanished. No reply. I stared at the feed on screen, watching myself in miniature, lit by the same lamp glow. I lifted the outage report, held it so the lens could read the header, then set it down again. I did the same with the email, the date stamps visible. Proof was one thing, chain of custody was another. No one would say I forged what had already been filed. The radiator hissed, a metallic heartbeat. Outside, a siren wound through the street, then faded. My reflection in the laptop looked older than I remembered, lined, jaws set, eyes alive with something Amanda hadn't counted on, patience. The phone buzzed again. This time, another message from her. Stop before you humiliate yourself further. Ethan doesn't need this. I laughed once, low. If they wanted to watch me fail, I thought, they'd have to see the whole reel. I typed, tell Ethan to answer himself. Fathers deserve that, not ventriloquism. Sent. No answer. I pushed back from the desk, letting the camera record an empty chair, Timestamp ticking. A silent reel capturing absence as clearly as presence. From the street, a horn blared. Upstairs, someone slammed a door. Life moved. But the red dot on the charger blinked steady, documenting every second. I stood at the threshold of my own living room, looking back. For the first time in weeks, I felt the balance shift. Not enough to win, but enough to prove I wasn't invisible. The camera blinked again. 8:47 p.m. appeared in the corner. My insurance was running. Investigators closed the lampshade halfway, leaving the desk in partial shadow, just enough for the timestamp to glow brighter. Then I walked into the bedroom, leaving the chair empty, the charger blinking. An honest witness no rumor could silence. The Langford's townhouse gleamed like a magazine spread. Parquet floors buffed to a mirror. Art on every wall curated for donors' tastes. I was shown, not to the drawing room couches, but to a narrow chair against the wall, angled toward the group like an observer instead of a guest. Victor and Diane sat near the fireplace. Amanda beside Ethan, hands folded neatly. Around them clustered two donors in golf jackets and a judge whose approval seemed to crown the evening. The sideboard glittered with silver, and among the place cards sat an embossed reminder. Foundation Gala, Saturday 10 p.m. The invitation glowed under lamplight like a stamped verdict. Amanda rose lightly, a slim folder in her hand. She smiled as though she were hosting a class. We've all been concerned about Richard. He's been struggling. Forgetfulness, confusion. We've done our best to support him. She lifted her phone, screen bright. For example, texts. She scrolled, then projected a message. Funny, law favors facts. The crowd chuckled uneasily. Out of context, it read as paranoia, not dry resistance. That was sent after he contacted old colleagues, Amanda explained. Chasing storms from years ago, you can imagine how disruptive this is for Ethan. Truth in my hand felt weightless against her theater. I stood slightly, voice steady. That text was an answer to a threat. Yours. You said you'd intervene legally. Amanda's expression softened to pity. I only meant we'd find the right help. Sometimes legal guidance is necessary for guardianship. The donors nodded. The judge murmured, prudent. Ethan dies for the sentence says, and the 19 million or 16 planes. To donors nodding, the donors at Silver too. I steadied toothed donors and some neighbor. I glanced at the invitation card again. Saturday, 10 p.m. The countdown ticking in plain sight. I said, funny, Amanda. Your story edits faster than your videos. Gasps. One donor shifted uncomfortably. Amanda kept her smile. Richard, no one here wants to embarrass you further. We love you. We want safety, dignity. My dignity doesn't need your signatures. The silence was heavy, broken only by the clink of Diane's teacup. Victor cleared his throat. Amanda has been very devoted. Perhaps we all should support her judgment. The word judgment landed like a gavel. I sat back in the angled chair, the room tilting further away. The folder with my outage report lay at home, unseen, weightless compared to her curated show. Amanda leaned closer to Ethan, squeezing his hand as though sealing another deal. The judge gave a nod that felt like a sentence. And I realized I had armed a camera, assembled papers, lined up truth, but here, tonight, her theater carried the louder voice. I left the townhouse and walked the long way home, past the backs of restaurants where steam bled into the alley and dishwashers laughed like they were immune to ballroom politics. By the time I reached Jamaica Plain, the spring damp had crept under my collar. I turned on the kitchen light and sat at the table I'd sanded myself 20 years ago. The wood still held the faint scent of lemon oil. It was the kind of table people used to pass down. Now the only thing that moved down the line was a folder thick with signatures I hadn't given. My phone buzzed on the counter. A new message popped up from Ethan's number. Amanda, for the foundation schedule, it's better if you arrive after 9. We'll already be in flow by then. Familiarity, after 9. Not at 9, not before, not seated. After, a polite synonym for stand outside until we're ready to make you small. I typed, I'm there for the remarks at 10. I added a period like a nail. Mirka's dots blinked, then evaporated. No reply. Provoked. The radiator sighed. I pulled the chair closer with a scrape and took out the envelope where I'd tucked the outage report and the email chain. I laid them on the table like a place setting. Paper isn't comfort food, but it keeps. The phone rang. James. He didn't waste time with hello. Telealized. Tell me you're not going alone to that donor night, he said. Their game is optics. Got documents, I said. And Bennett's photos. Documents don't breathe, people do, he said. Amanda's selling a narrative. She'll frame anything you say as confusion. Then I'll let other people talk. You need neutral ground to get seen, he said. Somewhere outside her stage. At the lamp throwing a warm circle on my table. Neutral isn't what this family runs on. Still, he said softer, don't give them an easy angle. Don't bark. Be precise. Let their words hang in the air and pin themselves. Muzzle. I know how to be quiet, I said. It's how I got through storms. He exhaled. Then do it again. We hung up. I set the phone face down and looked at the wood grain swirling under the lamp. My thumb traced a groove I'd never managed to sand away. Imperfections, stay honest. Footsteps padded in the hall. A knuckle rapped lightly on my door. I opened it to a man in a black polo carrying a garment bag and a clipboard with the Harbor Club crest. Caterer, early 30s, hair netted tight, eyes apologetic. Delivery for Langford, he said, squinting at the apartment numbers. Sorry, wrong floor? You're 2 floors shy, I said. What's in the bag? Placed cards and angling the clipboard. The top sheet showed a seating chart with names in careful cursive. He caught me looking, turned it away with a grimace, then leaned closer. They told us to adjust 1 seat, move a card off the main floor to ancillary service. Didn't sit right with me. Whose card? Hesitated. Says Richard D. I'm not looking to get in trouble, sir. Just if you show late, don't be surprised. Who told you to move it? Stabilize, he said, lowering his voice. Said it was logistics. I've done weddings a decade. Logistics don't sound like that, the garment bag a little. Anyway, sorry for the mix-up. Ix anything up, I said. He nodded once and padded back down the hall. The elevator dinged. I listened to it carry him out of earshot. On the table, my chair creaked as I sat. For a long minute, I didn't move. Then I pulled the phone closer and took a screenshot of Amanda's after 9 text. Time stamped in the corner, bright as a clock face. I pinned it in the thread. I dialed Ethan. The ringtone crawled through my ear twice, 3 times. On the 4th, the line clicked. Amanda's voice. Richard, we're in the middle of dinner planning, she said. Is everything okay? I called my son. Peering, I manage the calendar, she said, gentle as a padded hammer. Was there something you needed? My name on a table, I said. Not a counter, not a coat rack, a seat. A pause. I could hear clinking and the hush of voices in the background, the domestic jazz of control. Let's not escalate, she said. We decided after 9 would be easier, less pressure for you. You decided, I said. I didn't. You'll still be included, she said. We'll save you dessert. Oh, what saved me a chair? She smiled through the line. Tay, the phone buzzed. James again, a rapid text. Remember, you're not there to win a debate. You're there to be undeniable. Then another. And watch the clock. Watch the clock. I opened my calendar and scrolled to Saturday. Gala, 10 p.m., glowed back at me. Under it, I typed a note. Arrive 8:50. Stay in hall. Witness arrivals. Document program card. Then I took a breath and deleted document program card. 1 doc beat at a time. The text would be enough tonight. Up and walked to the window. Across the street, a laundromat TV flickered blue through a grate. Someone inside laughed at a sitcom I couldn't hear. I thought about all the rooms in this city where people didn't have to think about where they sat. Most of the time, I hadn't either. Age doesn't make the chair smaller. People do. I came back to the table. The kitchen chair took my weight, didn't complain, didn't tilt. They may steal my chair, I said out loud to the empty room, but not my presence. A new text, Amanda again. Polite finality wrapped around the words. Looking forward to seeing you after 9. We'll have someone meet you at the entry to guide you. Guide me, not greet me, not seat me, guide me. I took a second screenshot and pinned it under the first. One visible proof cue at a time, I reminded myself. The rest could wait. Blackmail the phone into my pocket, then took it out again and opened a draft message to Ethan. I typed, "Sons don't need guides to find their fathers." I stared at it, then saved it, unsent. Some lines cut more effectively when they land in person. The apartment quieted to the old rhythm, the radiator, the street hum, the light buzz. I folded the screenshot into my mind and into the plan. The camera in the charger blinked once from the desk in the other room, recording nothing but readiness. If someone checked on me, the reel would show who said what. Timestamps don't blur. Misled pushed back from the table and stood. My knees cracked. Not in surrender, but like old wood settling after a storm. I put the screenshot in a folder labeled Gala and closed it on the desktop. Then I looked at the lone empty space on the table, the way you study an empty seat at church, already knowing whose name should be on it. She thinks time itself can erase me, I said, and I let the kitchen light click off so that the phone screen, the message with "after 9" stamped in the corner, was the only glow left in the room. The radiator clanked once, then fell silent. In the pause, I heard only the tick of the wall clock and the faint rumble of traffic on Center Street. I pulled the chair to the desk and opened the laptop. The oak creaked, but held steady. Programmas, security conglogin, security prompts. Each keystroke felt like crossing a frozen pond, one careful step at a time. When the account page opened, the numbers lined up like soldiers. Savings, checking, pension disbursement, all there, all intact. For now. Amanda's folder had said consolidation. Her voice had said protection. Both meant one thing, control. If she folded my accounts into Ethan's household, she'd decide what I could spend, where I could live, when I was allowed to breathe. Not yet. Not tonight. I clicked transfer funds. A new screen loaded asking for the one-time token. The small plastic device sat on my desk. I pressed its button, watched digits roll into being like dice in a cup. I typed them into the field. Baptized, a box, blinked. Wire to new sub-account, pending confirmation. The sub-account was mine, opened quietly 2 weeks ago, titled in my name only. I'd seeded it with enough to keep rent and utilities covered for months. Tonight I meant to push the rest through before Amanda or Ethan could sniff it out. The cursor blinked against the field marked confirm. One press, and the transfer would leap. Killing buzzed. A call from James. "Tell me you're not about to make a big move," he said. "I'm protecting what's mine," I answered. "Richard, wires leave trails. They'll argue paranoia, claim you're hiding money." That folder she waved. "She'll wave this too." "I'm not hiding," I said. "I'm surviving." "Just make sure the reel catches it," James said. "Don't leave yourself with a blinking cursor and no witness." "I have the charger running," I said. "Then hold steady. Let her be the one who pushes too far." We hung up. The screen glared at me. The time stamp at the top corner read 9:12 p.m. The countdown wasn't just to the gala anymore. It was in every corner of my life. I typed a memo into the wire field. Rent to utilities reserve. No disguise, no subterfuge. If anyone read it later, it would show what it was. Survival, not theft. A text. Ethan's name on the thread. I opened it, hoping. But the words weren't his, they were Amanda's. Financial moves like this raise red flags. If you want to be included in planning, you need to be transparent. Please don't embarrass Ethan further. I clenched the phone. Strange how oversight always forgets oversight on itself, I muttered. I typed back, "Let my son answer himself." Sent. The 3 dots blinked, then vanished. I stared at the screen again. The confirm button glowed. I hovered over it, finger pressing faintly against the trackpad. Then I pulled back. C promised safety, but safety doesn't blink on a screen. I left the cursor there, blinking, waiting, unresolved. The charger camera would record it. Proof that I'd acted with caution, not confusion. The reel would show the truth, if anyone ever bothered to watch it. I leaned back in the chair. The oak creaked, not collapsing, only reminding me that even wood has a voice when pressure builds. The screen continued to blink, steady as a metronome. Pending confirmation. I closed my eyes, and let it keep time. Team the Beacon Hill townhouse glowed like a lantern on the block. Cars pulled up in a slow glide, spilling out donors in tuxedos and gowns, their laughter carried in the spring air, too sharp against the damp stones under my shoes. I tightened my coat and climbed the steps, my name already rehearsed for the doorman. "Richard Dawson," I said. The young man in a black jacket glanced down at his tablet, the screen lit blue against his face, numbers glowing. He frowned, tapped twice, then looked up. "Sir, I'm afraid the instruction is that you're not to enter until after 9. I checked my watch. 9:01. "After 9 has arrived," I said. "Ms. Langford asked us to stagger arrivals," he said. Voice professional, eyes sliding away. She was very specific. Behind him, through the glass doors, a chandelier shone down on guests drifting toward the dining room. I saw Ethan at the edge of the foyer, bow tie tight, drink in hand. He looked at me once, then away, as if the glass itself held his attention more than I did. Nothing shrinks a man faster than a door closed in his name. "I am his father," I said. The doorman lowered his voice. "Sir, I have my orders." A couple in evening wear passed me on the stoop, nodding politely without slowing. I caught a whisper. "That's the father?" Another voice. "He's not well, poor man." The tablet screen glowed again, brighter this time. In the corner, 9:01 p.m. The numbers pulsed like they were keeping score. I lifted my phone, snapped a photo. One more timestamp for the reel. "Tell Ethan to meet me here," I said. The doorman shifted. "He's busy, sir." "Tell him," I repeated, my voice hardening. He tapped his earpiece, murmured something. A pause. He nodded once, then shook his head at me. "He's occupied. Ms. Langford says she'll greet you herself later." "Of course," I muttered. Funny how family can't open doors they claim to own. Youngsie, the staffer's jaw tightened, but he didn't move aside. Gounsey of donors arrived, brushing past me, perfume and cologne trailing. One woman gave a sympathetic smile without stopping. Sympathy is just another way of saying, "You're not invited." Gounsey of donors arrived at Transisy. Downsey my weight on the stoop. The stone was cold under my shoes, the light too bright on my coat. I imagined the oak chair at my apartment, steady under me, waiting. Here there was no seat, just a threshold that branded me an outsider. Kiansi, Amanda appeared briefly in the hallway, face framed by crystal light. She glanced at the doorman, then at me. Her smile was professional, practiced. She raised her hand in a tiny wave, a hostess acknowledging a passerby, not a father of the groom. Then she turned, her gown sweeping, and disappeared toward the dining room. Gounsey of Dorman's system, Amirian, Luring cleared his throat. "Sir, if you'd prefer, there's a waiting parlor down the block." "No," I said, cutting him short. The tablet glowed again. 9:04 p.m. "Take," I stood, coat collar pulled close, watching guests stream in. Each card that fluttered past the doorman's clipboard was another weight pressing me down. My seat wasn't just moved, it was erased. The whispers continued. "Why is he outside?" Amanda said, "He forgets things." I lifted my phone again, snapped another photo. The door closed, the tablet glowing, guests filing past. Evidence of exclusion, timestamp intact. The doorman shifted uneasily. "I'll check again in a few minutes, sir." I nodded without speaking. Sometimes silence is the only word left. The stoop grew colder as the clock climbed. 9:06, 9:07. Each minute, another guest, another whisper, another cut. The townhouse swallowed me whole the moment the door clicked behind my back. No foyer greeting, no usher to a seat, just a staffer pointing toward the side hall. I followed, shoes echoing off parquet, until I was deposited in the coat room. Rows of heavy wool and silk hung limp, shoulders slouched on brass hangers. The air smelled of cedar and perfume, with a faint trace of mothballs. In the corner, a folding table sagged under garment bags, a stack of invoices, and one lone place card. My name, printed in neat cursive, Richard Dawson, wedged among delivery slips. The staffer, barely 20, offered me a polite smile, then reached under the table and held out a napkin-wrapped cookie. "Dessert's over, sir, but you can have this." Despair tastes like sugar you didn't ask for. Thank you, I said, though my throat was tight. He nodded and left. The door swung shut. I was alone with coats for company, their sleeves brushing as if applauding my exile. Roughed the thin wall, I heard the swell of conversation, the clink of crystal. A woman's laugh trilled, followed by Amanda's voice, pitched just loud enough to carry. We all want what's best for Richard. It's important he not overexert himself. Murmurs of agreement rose. The narrative hardened like wet cement around me. Walter pulled out my phone, glanced at the screen. 9:50 p.m. 10 minutes until the official remarks. The countdown throbbed in my chest like another pulse. I moved to the folding chair in the corner, but I couldn't sit. My place had been taken already, set among invoices and used linens. I stood, coat in hand, posture stiff. The door cracked open. Amanda swept past, sequins catching light like shards. She glanced in at me, her smile thin, rehearsed. Leaving so soon, she asked, voice sugar over steel. Not before 10, I answered. Her eyes narrowed a fraction before she turned, gown whispering against the parquet as she rejoined her guests. I let the words hang in the air like a nailed plank. Not before 10. Another staffer entered, grabbed a coat, glanced at me with pity, and left without a word. Whispers floated in from the hall. He's still here? Amanda said he forgets things. 10, I checked my watch again. 9:57. The second hand scraped forward, each tick echoing louder than the ballroom chatter. At 9:59, I lifted my phone and snapped a photo of the place card stacked among invoices. The charger camera at home would back me up, but this was fresh. The timestamp glowed in the corner. The coats shifted slightly as the HVAC kicked in, their sleeves brushing together like they knew something I didn't. I stayed rooted, jaw set. Pim. 10. The watch face turned, minute hand vertical, second hand slicing forward. Appliance steady. Not before 10. The chandeliers hummed with light as the donors settled into their seats. The Langford's ballroom pulsed with polite chatter, but my spot was still by the wall, no chair pulled for me. The program card on the podium gleamed under the lights. 10 p.m. Remarks. The minute hand on my watch clicked straight up. Victor Langford stepped forward, his voice calm and assured, the way men who never worry about being interrupted speak. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, thank you for supporting the foundation tonight. Before we close, I want to acknowledge someone who once saved not just a building, but my company's lifeblood. The room stilled. Amanda's smile flickered. Victor's gaze swept, searching. His eyes landed on me. He squinted, then straightened as recognition hit. You, Richard Dawson, you were the municipal engineer in 2015, the Nor'easter. You rigged the emergency transfer when our backup failed. Chairs scraped as people turned. Amanda's hands shot up, fluttering like she could wave the words away. Dad, this is getting... Enough, Amanda, Victor said, palm firm, voice sharp enough to cut crystal. The room shifted. Whispers became a current moving in my direction. Victor continued. We would have lost 8 years of research lines if you hadn't kept power flowing. I never knew your name. Tonight I do, and I will not let this man be called an embarrassment. Gasps circled. Amanda froze, her smile locked in place, but empty behind the eyes. From the back, Nurse Bennett raised her phone. I have photos from that night, she called. On the screen, me, soaked through, threading cable with linemen, headlamp a small star in the storm. The AV tech by the stage projected them onto the ballroom wall. The cropped wedding clip Amanda had seated paled instantly. Context now restored, truth undeniable. Underestimated, and hands caught it clumsily. Face drained. Dad, he whispered, but the words stuck in his throat. Amanda lurched forward. These photos, Dad. This is out of context. You don't understand. Victor Sursa lifted again, quiet but final. You silenced the truth for your convenience. Not tonight. Rose first, a soft authority. I was on the board of that hospital. I remember that outage. He's right. Dawson was the one who kept us running. Ers became a scent. Chairs scraped as half the room rose to their feet. A ripple of correction. Amanda's composure cracked. Her face fell. voice pleading now. Dad, you're humiliating me. No, Amanda, Victor said, eyes hard. You've humiliated yourself. Silence clapped the room. Ethan turned fully toward me, shame etched across his face. He stepped closer, shoulders sagging. I'm sorry, he whispered loud enough to carry. I wanted to be the man in the room so badly, I forgot how to be your son. My pulse steadied. I didn't raise my voice. Embarrassment isn't truth, it's just a crop of the real. The room erupted in applause, not loud and raucous, but sustained. The applause of correction, of manners snapping into place. Amanda sank into her seat, face flushed, hands trembling. Visible remorse, her collapse complete in front of her own father, her husband, and a room full of witnesses. I didn't move to the podium. I didn't need to. Sometimes the only sound you need is truth finding a microphone. The apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the muted clatter of the radiator. I set the kitchen table the way I liked it, one place, one glass of water, the folder of documents stacked in the center. This table had outlasted every storm, and tonight it felt like the only jury I needed. On top of the folder lay the family agreement, the one Amanda had pushed across the parlor weeks ago, fat with clauses that stripped me of dignity. Her neat script still marked the signature line where Ethan had bent to her pressure. A pen stroke as heavy as a lock, but beside it now, jagged and angry, was the mark that tore through his name. The scratch-out wasn't neat, it wasn't elegant, but it was mine. Ethan stepped inside, no tuxedo, no audience, just a plain shirt, his face lined with something I hadn't seen in years. Shame turned honest. He placed a small silver key on the table, the one he'd taken from me for emergencies. I don't get to keep this, he said. No, I answered, you don't. He slid into the chair across from me. For the first time since the wedding, we were level. I'm sorry, he said. The words were simple, unpolished. I wanted to be the man in the room so badly, I forgot how to be your son. I tapped the folder. No one calls me an embarrassment again. Not at a wedding, not online, not anywhere. We speak to each other, not about each other. That's the line. Deal. His voice cracked, but he didn't look away. I opened the folder, drew out a fresh page. A letter, printed on Victor's company letterhead, signed in his steady hand. To whom it may concern, Richard Dawson's actions during the 2015 outage preserved critical cell lines and the work of hundreds of staff. Our company owes him a debt of gratitude. Monday, it wasn't money, it wasn't property, but it was a record, stamped and signed, something Amanda could never crop or twist. I slid it across the table toward Ethan. Your father-in-law wrote this. That's proof enough. Frame it if you like or leave it. Either way it stands. Ethan touched the edge of the page like it might burn him. Amanda, he began, then stopped. She's made her choices, I said. So have you. The radiator hissed, then quieted, as if giving the moment back to us. My phone buzzed. A message from James. Heard about the gala. Well done. Remember, peace isn't applause. It's a chair that doesn't wobble. I smiled faintly and read it aloud. Ethan lowered his head, nodding. This house already has a guardian, I said, my voice firm but quiet. Me. The silence that followed was steady, not brittle. Ethan stood, hesitated, then placed a hand on my shoulder before leaving. The latch clicked shut behind him. I turned back to the table. The key, the scratched-out signature, Victor's letter, all spread before me. I closed the folder, set it aside, and glanced toward the window. The fern Amanda had left behind had withered, its petals brittle. I'd replaced it with a fern of my own, green and stubborn, reaching toward the glass. I sat in my kitchen chair, steady beneath me, and let the quiet hold. I learned that patience cuts sharper than anger. Truth doesn't need shouting, only time to find the right ear. My son's shame won't erase what was said, but it may teach him where loyalty belongs. I'm no one's embarrassment. I sit in my own kitchen chair, steady beneath me, woods silent and sure. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.